What's up, Leos? Butch Tarot here. I'm going to do your 1 week read. It is a general read, so it may not resonate with everyone. It is for your Sun, Moon, Rising, and your Venus. For all you cross watchers, roles can be reversed. Always feel free to comment down below. If you're new to the channel and you like it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, stay a while. We have a great community here, a lot of great people, very loving, very open, very generous. I couldn't ask for anything better. So if you're new, welcome. If you're returning, good to see you again. Let's get it. Universe, what message do we have for Leos? All right, Leos, we got a lot to talk about. So first things first, Leo, is I feel like this incredibly strong connection surrounding you, and I feel like the moment you met this person, now you're gonna know it if this is someone you already know. Like I said, this is for the week. So if you don't know them, I see this person coming in. But like I said, you're gonna know. You'll get it in a minute. You're gonna know if you already know this person, because I feel like when you meet this person or you met this person, you knew right away. You just knew. You know, your intuition was telling you, you knew what you wanted. You know, your intuition was telling you there was something very different about this person. Like, I feel like it just hit different. And I feel like it seems almost impulsive, but it's almost like magnetic is really the better word for it, because I feel like it's not impulsive if it's right, you know? Impulsive is about making a decision based on impulse, not on contributing factors. With this, it's energetically, it just feels like this connection, like you're just drawn to this person, feeling very comfortable very quickly with this person, you know. And I feel like that's something that's really going to be a dead giveaway. Like I said, if you already know this person, you know who I mean. If you don't, get ready, because you're going to know it as soon as you meet this person. Like, you just knew, is the words I keep hearing in my head. You just knew. Like, I feel like you've been waiting, patiently waiting for that right one. And you knew when you met this person that, trust your intuition, like I said, with the High Priestess. We got the Page of Cups. This is what you've been fantasizing about. This is what all those dreams were about. And for some of you, I do feel like there was dreams, leading up to this. But what you're waiting for is here. There's a reason why this feels different. There's a reason why it feels very different, because it is. Now, I could tie that up in a nice little bow, but we have some more to talk about. I feel there is some fear. We have the Eight of Swords in reverse, or we have the Queen of Swords in reverse, the Eight of Swords upright. I feel like we're holding back the truth. Like it feels like a huge risk. It's It's a huge risk, and it is a huge risk. Like, I feel like you don't want to make any mistakes, and with this person, it's very mirroring. I feel like they're on the same, they're in the same boat. Like, it's like you didn't expect to meet this person, especially not like this. And there's definitely a risk factor here. You know, I mean, I'm feeling this hot and cold energy between the two of you. You know, and it's very misleading. You know, I mean, I feel like you've been screwed over before, and I feel like this person's been screwed over. Like I said, I'm getting some twin flame energy from this. You know, I feel like you've been on similar journeys, and it's almost like it's hard to trust. You know, you've been there, you've gotten your heart broken. You know, you put yourself out there, and the more times you do that, excuse me, the more times you do that and get burned, it's almost harder and harder to put yourself out there. You know, and I mean, with this person, they're putting in a lot of effort not to give into this because they're afraid. And the more they care about you, the more they feel for you, the more they feel connected to you, the more afraid they become. You know, it becomes real. It's not just a fling. It's not just something casual. You know, they see you as someone that they could build a future with. And that's a huge, huge step. You know, it's like renting an apartment versus buying a house. You can rent an apartment and not really put a whole lot of effort into finding one. But when you're looking for a house, I mean, that's a commitment. You know, so you want to find the right one. Excuse me. You know, and you don't want to be impulsive. You don't want to... You don't want to get it wrong. But I mean, there's so much going on here. Like I said, feeling very, very comfortable with each other. Very, you know, it's almost like you just click. And it feels so right that we're just waiting for the wrong to show up. And that's just life. That's life that's done that to us. You know, when you've been screwed over enough, every time a good deal or something good comes along, you feel like that's going to screw you somehow. I don't see it, though. I mean, I feel like you knew it when you met this person. I feel like you were all in. I feel like they were all in. You know, I feel like there's this deep connection between the two of you that's going to continue to pull you together. And we can fight it all we want. You know, it's like swimming against the current. Eventually, you're going to tire out. You know, but I mean, like I said, I mean, I feel... I mean, they don't want to make any mistakes. They don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to get screwed over. But they also... There's this internal struggle because they also don't see themselves being able to walk away from you either. You know, they don't want to make any mistakes with that Five of Swords. You know, they don't want to have any regrets. So it's almost like a catch-22 right now. And I mean, things... With the Ten of Wands, I mean, like I said, they're putting a lot of effort. I feel like you both are. Almost like trying to avoid this... Or stepping back and it's like letting it play out to see what happens. Because I don't see either one of you like walking away. But like I said, a lot of open communication. You know, and I feel like that's going to start to diminish the overthinking. You know, but it's going to take time. You know, there's going to be a lot of communication. I feel like there's a lot of rapport between the two of you. I feel the connection growing, and as it grows and grows, it's almost like it's becomes more scary. It's like it's like going parachuting. You know, you think about it, and it gives you a little bit of anxiety. You get a little bit scared, and then you get in the plane, and you get more afraid. And then you get to the point where they're like people in front of you are starting to jump out the plane, and then you're like, okay, well, you know, this is like the peak. But once you take that jump, you know, that's when I feel like this all this fear, all this anxiety just kind of melts away. You know, and we start to establish that trust. We start to realize that this person's going to catch us when we fall. You know, it's like one of those trust fall things. You're always thinking, okay, what if they don't catch me? Until they do. And when they do, you know, but you're not going to know until you do. And, you know, it's like I said, we're going to go back to the word risky. I'm using risky a lot because it is risky. Everything in life is risky. It has risks. But I'd rather, I'd rather risk it all with the promise of gaining everything than risking it all and gaining nothing, or not risking it all and gaining nothing. I mean, I feel like at the end of the day, it's just going after what you want with the King of Wands. You know, and the King of Cups, I feel like you both want this, and it is something that is real. You know, and we have to see it to believe it. We have to feel it to know it. But I mean, this back and forth, and that fear is not on it's not just you. I mean, I feel like this person's afraid too, but not afraid enough to make a stupid decision to walk away from this. Like I said with the Fool card, I feel like you're both all in. You just haven't told each other yet. Now, for some of you, this may already be a relationship. When you met them, you just knew there was something different about them. And, you know, maybe we just haven't got to the jumping out of the plane part yet. But what I'm seeing is one hell of a connection. I mean, I see a lot. I see emotional fulfillment. I see a lot of happiness in your future. And sometimes we just gotta. We're talking about, we talk about the Fool again, taking that leap of faith. Maybe that's where I came up with the skydiving. But like I said, with the Sun card and the Nine of Cups, I mean, I don't know if you can end a reading with two better cards. You know, it reminds me of that quote: is everything you ever want is on the other side of fear. You know, I see a lot of happiness. I mean, we have the Sun card. I love the Sun card in this deck, the Wild Reflections. You know, we got this woman, and she's just out in her house coat. She doesn't even care. She's not getting dressed. She's just happy. You know, that's where we all want to be. You know, she didn't even put on shoes. She's out there banging on her gong, just loving life, living her best life. And that's the thing. Sometimes we get hurt, and we double down the next time, and the next time, and the next time. Then by the time we meet the right person, we've like tripled down. But the right person will break through. You know, you don't give up on the right one. And sometimes we got to go through a lot to get there, but, you know, the right one will break through those walls. I mean, with this person, I mean, we have Leo, we have Sagittarius, we have Gemini, we have Aquarius, we have some Libra, we have Taurus, I mean, we have Pisces as well. Scorpio. And that's what I mean by when I say a reference of buying a house. When you're buying an apartment, like, you just want something that's clean and, it's going to give you enough space and stuff like that. Like, you're not really looking into it. But when you go to buy a house, a house you plan on living the rest of your life in, you put a lot more effort into it. And you're not as quick to just sign up. Like, when an apartment, you sign a lease, and a house, you're signing your mortgage, or you're buying it with cash if you're lucky enough. But either way, it's a risk. An apartment, you're month to month or year to year. With a house, that's something that you're going to have for life. So you want to make the right decision. So it's okay to have some fear. Like I said, when you meet the right one, you'll get past it. But like I said, with this connection, I see two people that are just really drawn to each other. Like I said, and the fact that you knew, like I said, you're just going to know. You're going to know there's something different here. It's going to feel different. Energetically, it's just different. It hits different. And I'm an optimistic person. And when I feel like I had someone tell me before that when they met someone, they said, this person's not like anyone I ever met before. And I'm like, well, you're single and you went through a lot of bad relationships. So meeting someone that's not like someone you knew before, or meeting someone that's not like anyone you ever dated before, is probably a great thing. I mean, it's not probably, it is a great thing. The worst thing would be to have a bunch of shitty past relationships and then meet someone just like all the other relationships you had, Like I said, there is a lot of fear, and it's a risk. But with great risk comes great reward. And I know I'm just clicheing the shit out of this with all these obvious quotes, but sometimes it's just obvious. Sometimes it's not that deep. But like I said, when you meet the real one, it's okay to be patient. It's okay to take your time, because the real one isn't going anywhere. The real one will show up for you when you need them. I always say that. When you win the lottery, you make a whole lot of new friends. And a whole lot of old friends come back into your life. You can find all kinds of people to spend time with when you win the lottery, or when you're rich. But when you're poor, it's the real ones that are there. They're the ones that are important. They're the ones that, matter. Because anybody's going to come and celebrate the good times with you. But only the real ones are there when shit ain't great. That's why I'm so adamant about real connections. When you find a real connection, whether it be a friend, whether it be family, or romantic, when you meet a real connection, I feel like things like that just grow naturally if you allow it to. You don't really have to put on a whole lot of work. There's going to be some days when you got to put effort in and you got to show up for each other. But the love will effortlessly grow. Anyway. That's what I have for you. Be good. Take care. Stay safe.